Okay, it is 9 o'clock, and I'm going to go ahead and call to order
This meeting is being recorded.
of the Arizona State Transportation Board for August 16th in Safford, Arizona. And if you would, if you have your cell phones, I would just remind you to please put them on mute so we don't have any interruptions. And with that, we'll go to the Pledge of Allegiance. And Ms. Howard, this is your town. Would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Hogan, would you please proceed with the roll call?
Chairman Richard Searle,
Present.
Vice Chair Jim Daniels, Board Member Ted Maxwell,
Present.
Board Member Jenny Howard,
present.
Board Member Sam Elchers,
Present.
Board Member Jamasita Peshnakai,
Present.
Board Member Jackie Mack.
Present.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum and may proceed.
All right, thank you very much. It's great to be in Safford this morning. I want to thank Graham County for the hosting of the reception last night. It was great to see old friends. It was good to meet new friends. And as being a neighbor to the south, I get to look at Mount Graham every morning when I wake up, and we just see the other side of it, that's all. So one of the benefits of being on the Transportation Board is we do travel around the state, and our meetings are held all over, and we get to see the different issues that we all as a state get to experience. And it's good to get other perspectives other than just what comes out of Phoenix or out of Tucson. So with that, thank you for the reception. The food was great. I'm assuming it came from Casa Mañana, which is one of your premier Mexican food restaurants, and it was very good. And Ms. Howard.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for coming who came from the Valley. And again, it's been a very long time. I said last night, 20 plus years since we've had a meeting here, so this is really great. And thanks to Megs for the wonderful breakfast this morning as well. And I just welcome all of you. Thank you so much.
Mr. Maxwell.
Good morning, everybody. My apologies for not making it up last night. My intent was to fly up and experience the Safford Airport as one of the few pilots, maybe the only one on the board. I like to go into the small airports when we come to some of the towns, and so I'm committed to coming back up. It's just we need to put a new engine in the plane, and that's going to be a process. Makes it a little difficult to get anywhere. So
Are you saying it's kind of hard to fly without an engine?
It's a little difficult,
Okay.
but I'm willing to take you anywhere you need to go. But thank you for the hospitality. It is the best part of being on this board is getting the opportunity to go out and see the other towns. I got to see it today driving up. I represent Pima County, came from Tucson, so came up from the south. And it's good. I may take a different route on the way home so I can see more of the state routes and the roads we've got in our region. So thanks for all the support.
All right. And so with that, Mr. Rorick, would you please do the announcement for Title VI?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. First, I would like to acknowledge that Ms. Daniels has joined the meeting. She is remote and has participated. You have a full complement of board members.
Very good.
Pursuant to Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Americans with Disability Act, ADOT and the State Transportation Board do not discriminate on the basis of race, color, national origin, age, sex, or disability. No person will be excluded from participation and be denied the benefit of or be otherwise subjected to discrimination under any State Transportation Board or ADOT program or activity. To ensure compliance with this program, we ask individuals to please complete a self-identification survey. There's a survey link on the agenda, and for those present, there are survey cards on the table at the entrance to the chambers. Please complete a survey. If you're in person, leave it there. We'll pick it up at the end of the meeting. Thank you, and thank you for your participation.
All right, thank you, Mr. Rorick. We'll now move to the call to the public, call to the audience. I think we have a number of online and we have some in person. Those that are telephonically joining us, you will be muted until your name is called. The instructions are online on how to proceed from there. Mr. Rorick, if you would please proceed with calling those that want to address us. And just a reminder, there is a 3-minute time limit on all comments.
Our first speaker is the chairman of the County Supervisors, Mr. Howard.
Yes, thank you. I welcome everybody here that was able to come up and travel up here to our great county of Graham County. I'm John Howard, chairman of the Graham County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to acknowledge Director Toth and thank you for being here and the board members for being here. This is quite an occasion for us. It's kind of like a special occasion. It's been years and years, and finally we get you here to little rural Arizona, Graham County. I hope you're enjoying your stay, but I just want to say I appreciate each and every one of you for what you do on the board. I will kind of echo what I said last night at the dinner. It's a very difficult job. I realize, and the public doesn't probably realize the job you have to do and the difficulties you have to do it with the funding being short this year. So I just want to express my appreciation for you all coming here and giving us your time, and we certainly hope we can get you back here soon. So thank you and welcome.
Thanks, John. Thank you, Supervisor Howard.
Our next speaker is Mr. Vinny Gallegos.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Vinny Gallegos, Executive Director of the Central Yavapai MPO. Happy to announce that again the Arizona Rural Transportation Summit will take place in 2 months. Really appreciate you as a state transportation board the last couple meetings, bringing up more of the challenges that you as a board face, that we face as a state as it relates to transportation. For 25 years, rural Arizona has come together, and while rural's in the title and that's its main objective, it really is, as you've discussed, a statewide challenge and an opportunity for us. So I want to thank you as a board for committing to be at the Rural Summit in 2 months. I want to thank Jennifer Toth and her staff as the director for ADOT for being the title sponsor. And the way that we have the program outlined, when you look at it, is we want to tackle 3 areas. We want to educate about the ongoing challenges that you continue to talk about as a board, as staff is faced with, as we see in transportation. We want to engage the people that are in attendance, and ultimately we want to be able to leave there with what is the vision for transportation in Arizona. We know that very often it comes down to the dollars and the budget and the resources, but we recognize that's not the only issue. We realize that there's policy and there's a number of other things that also present challenges. So those are the 3 things that we are set to do at the Rural Transportation Summit, is to educate, to engage, and to leave there inspired with a vision and really identify those champions. Many of you on the dais, many of the people in the audience, many people that will be in attendance. I'm very proud of our state legislators that have committed to be there, our local legislators that have committed to be there, federal highway staff, the Federal Transit Administration staff, the ADOT staff, and I'm inspired that with 400 people in the room, we're going to really look at this and dig into it. We know we're not going to get all the answers we need there. This is a longer conversation, but it is a true opportunity for us to come together and really use that as the springboard as we move forward from that point, as to really identify opportunities with working together. So again, thank you, and we'll see you in 2 months in Prescott, October 16th through the 18th. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Gallegos.
I'm not going up to speak. I was just told that online they can't see the speaker, so I was just going to see if we can move this forward a little bit. That doesn't move? Okay.
You try.
Well, that was your chance, Floyd.
That'll end my public comments.
Can we move the microphone maybe?
It really just the people standing there. But that's fine. We have a record of them being here. So our next speaker is Mr. Kevin Adam.
Floyd. Could they move the camera? No, they said the camera's
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, director, ADOT staff. Kevin Adam with the Rural Transportation Advocacy Council. We're a coalition of all the local governments and regional planning organizations across Arizona, outside of Maricopa and Pima counties. And we're less than a month away from September 14th. That's a very huge date. It is the general effective date of legislation that passed this year. And we partnered with ADOT. I think it was a terrific relationship, and we were able to come up, I think, with some very effective reforms to the Arizona SMART program. Relatively new program that was put in place to address relatively new federal grant opportunities. And so I think the timing as far as putting some reforms in place was very good. And we've done that. And so now we're much closer to the implementation. I think many of the reforms that are being considered are very much oriented towards ADOT's ability to administer, to safeguard the program, to make sure that the funding is being used appropriately and timely. But at the same time, we need to counterbalance that a little bit, and we need to make sure that any new reforms that are put in place also take into account the end user. I think one of the beauties of the SMART program, and I work with local governments across the country in other states, and I think we've really been cutting edge. There aren't too many other states out there that are providing the level of assistance that the SMART program does for rural communities in Arizona. But one of the beauties of it is we have these incredibly complex federal programs that require the federal aid process, which local governments historically have not used. It's extremely difficult, and we've been able to counterbalance that with, I think, what has been a very user-friendly process with the SMART program. And I think if we reform that program to where it becomes excessively difficult for folks to apply, that's going to have a chilling effect on its effectiveness. And so obviously we need to keep in mind ADOT's ability to effectively administer, but in doing that, I don't think we can lose sight on the end user and to maintain it being a very user-friendly process, which it has been. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Adams.
Before I call the next speaker up, I'm going to ask, I've gotten multiple requests that it is a little difficult to hear some of the speakers, so please remember to get close to that microphone and speak as loudly or as clearly as you can. Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. Sean Wenham. Mr. Wenham.
Okay, eat the mic. Remember to eat the mic. That's the ticket here. Good morning.
Mics are dangerous.
Yeah, they're really tricky. And as soon as you get too close, it betrays you. Good morning. My name is Sean Wenham. I'm a social performance manager with Freeport McMoran. Don't stress the job title. I'm not sure I understand it either, but I can spend 3 minutes talking about that. On behalf of Freeport, I wanted to welcome you all to Graham County, Arizona. Thank you, Chairman Searle and the board, as well as Director Toth and your staff for joining us here, and we're pleased to see you. Freeport McMoran is an international mining company with headquarters in Phoenix, Arizona. We're the largest publicly traded copper mining company in the world, and certainly have a large presence across Arizona. We enjoy excellent working relationships with ADOT across the state in support of those multiple mines across multiple districts, and we certainly appreciate that. Here in the Southeastern District, we're really pleased to work with Todd Emery and his staff. They've been working with us and addressing some driver behaviors and other safety-related opportunities on Highway 70 and 191, so we appreciate that time. We've recently had an opportunity to implement a commuter program in partnership with Enterprise, which I'm told is recognized by Enterprise as a Milestone Van Pool Program Award, and I think we've now got over 500 employees at the Morenci mine that are utilizing that to decrease the amount of vehicles and to increase van pooling between Graham County and Greenlee. We're also pleased to be working with ADOT leadership and Southeast District leadership on addressing some growing capacity and modernization needs on the US 70 and 191 corridor, including multimodal options, and so we're pleased to have that working relationship. Much of our work, basically all of it, whether it's on-site or off, relies on transportation and different logistics support, and so ADOT is a key part of that. And so again, just wanted to thank all of you very much and thank Todd as well and his staff, and we look forward to future partnership. And again, welcome to Southeastern Arizona.
Thank you for the comments from Freeport. It's nice to hear the perspective from Southeastern Arizona opposed to your other operations.
Mr. Chairman, that is all the requests I have in person. I have a few online, so we'll now go to the online requests. Remember, when your name is called, please raise your hand, and the WebEx host will help you unmute your line. Our first speaker is Sitiana Ahmed. Sitiana Ahmed.
As a reminder, please put the star, breathe each of the raise your hands or use the raise hand icon on your screen. And let me look through the pin.
Yeah, I was going to ask, Bryson, you can look, see if they are logged into the meeting.
Don't see the little list.
Okay, let's move on and we can come back at the end and see if they log in. Our next speaker is Mr. Jim McCarthy. Mr. McCarthy, please raise your hand.
You are now muted. You may speak.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can.
All right, thank you. I wanted to talk about agenda item 7. Mr. Chair, and members of the Transportation Board, my name is Jim McCarthy. I serve as a Flagstaff City Council member. I am here to discuss the Butler Avenue Big Streets conversion. The city applied for a federal Safe Streets for All grant to cover the bulk of the cost. The program is very competitive. However, I am pleased to say that we won the grant in the amount of $9.6 million because of the significant project value. We seek your approval for approximately $2.4 million in Arizona Smart Program funding to cover the city's required match. Butler Avenue is a high-volume east-west corridor in Flagstaff. It is used by automobiles, bicycles, and pedestrians, and has several public transit stops. Because Butler separates NEM and downtown Flagstaff, there is substantial north-south bicycle and pedestrian traffic. There have been an alarming number of accidents in this area between bike path and vehicles. There was a crash in 2021 where a cyclist lost a limb and another was killed. The upgrades will provide much needed separation, space, and time between travel modes. The Flagstaff citizens approved the tax to build a bridge over the railroad just north of the project area. The upgrade will reduce train accidents and improve traffic flow, but will increase usage on Butler and one of the major cross streets, Lone Tree Road. The overpass will have provisions for bicycle and pedestrian safety, thus interacting well with the Butler project. The City Council recently reduced the speed limit on Butler. Additionally, as a temporary safety measure, the city installed removable concrete curbs to separate the bike lanes from vehicles. However, the temporary project was an inadequate solution. For approximately 1 mile along Butler, the Complete Streets project will separate the bicycle lanes from the traffic lanes and will raise them to the level of improved sidewalks. The project will also provide protected intersections and enhance the pedestrian crossings in the heavy pedestrian area along Butler. The City Council respectfully requests you approve the Flagstaff Arizona Smart Funding Proposal. And thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. McCarthy.
Our next speaker is Mr. Geronimo Vasquez. Mr. Vasquez?
For now, meeting, please.
My name is Geronimo Vasquez, and I serve as Chair of Metro Plan in Greater Flagstaff, and am Supervisor for Coconino County District 2. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm here to support the City of Flagstaff, Arizona's Smart Fund application in the amount of $2.4 million to match their already awarded Safe Streets and Roads for All implementation grant for the Butler Complete Streets Conversion Project in the amount of $9.6 million. This is an important project because Butler is the city's highest cyclist crash corridor and one of the city's highest injury crash corridors. We are all invested in safe travel for our communities. The Butler Complete Streets conversion has robust city investment to convert 0.9 miles of Butler Avenue between Milton and Sawmill Roads into a complete street. Complete streets enable safe access for all people that need to get around, regardless of how. This project includes grade separated bike lanes, protected intersections, a new pedestrian crossing, upgrades for pedestrian comfort, ADA improvements, and connectivity benefits for the Southside community. The Arizona Smart Fund match dollars are awarded. This will leverage city funds for important projects that will bring economic benefits to the local community and the greater Arizona. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments, Supervisor Vasquez.
Our next speaker is Ms. Sandra Tavel. Ms. Tavel, please raise your hand.
For now, members of the board, my name is Sandra Tavel, and I am the Transportation Planner for Metro Plan of Greater Flagstaff. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you today. Metro Plan of Greater Flagstaff offers its strongest support for the City of Flagstaff's Arizona Smart Fund application in the amount of $2.4 million to match their already awarded Safe Streets and Roads for All implementation grant for the Butler Complete Streets Conversion Project in the amount of $9.6 million. This project seeks to convert 0.9 miles of Butler Avenue between Milton and Sawmill Roads into a complete street, which will enable safe travel and access for all people in all modes. The implementation of this project will directly contribute to the region's goal of eliminating death and serious injury on our roads. This is an important project because Butler Avenue is the city's highest cyclist crash corridor and one of the city's highest injury crash corridors. We are aware that this award will draw down a large portion of the city's over 10,000 category, but would remind the board that effective January 2025, per updated AZ Smart statute, you will have an opportunity to rebalance the funding categories. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Cavell.
Bryce, do you see if Sitiana Ahmed has entered the meeting? Because I don't see them myself.
I do not at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, that would have closed out the call to the audience. I have no other requests, and if Sitiana does not log in, then she's a no-show.
All right, thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. With that, I'm going to go ahead and close the call to the audience, and we will now move on to item number 1, which is our director's report. Director Todd, I'll turn it over to you.
Good morning. I want to thank everyone for welcoming us. We are very happy to be here today. So I'll start off, I think. There we go. Okay, I'll start off with some really great news. Recently, ADOT's been honored with a couple of national awards. The first is from America's Transportation Awards, which is a national competition sponsored by ASTO. Our Loop 303 project, which constructed interchanges at 43rd and 51st Avenues near I-17 in North Phoenix, won in the Quality of Life Community Development category at the regional level. You'll recall that ADOT partnered with MAG and the City of Phoenix to accelerate the work in order to address current and future traffic growth in that area near the TSMC plant. We're very proud of the project's impact was recognized with this particular award. In addition, we were also recently notified that ADOT's Leadership and Professional Development Team has been selected as this year's winner of the ASTO President's Transportation Award for Administration and Organizational Excellence. This is another amazing honor, and we're very proud of this team that oversees ADOT's workforce development program and focuses on leadership training, employee development, and knowledge sharing. And this award will be presented in October at the ASTO annual meeting in Pennsylvania. Moving on, I want to quickly share that I was in Tucson earlier this week for the Arizona Transportation Research Summit. I was joined by officials from Arizona State University, Northern Arizona University, and the University of Arizona for an introduction to the Arizona Transportation Institute, and that introduction was for faculty and stakeholders. AZTI is really an exciting and groundbreaking collaboration between ADOT and the 3 universities. All other partnerships between states and the universities for transportation institutes have traditionally been with one university. This is the first time that multiple universities have come together to work with the DOT, and so the universities will partner with ADOT on transportation research focusing on planning, operations, safety, mobility, materials, and more. We're waiting for the Board of Regents' approval of the Institute in September, and then the deans of the university and I will be able to sign the agreement. It's going to be a great partnership. We're really looking forward to working closely with AZTI faculty and the researchers. Our goal really is to use their expertise and resources in this collaborative effort so we can find innovative solutions to critical problems. More good news. On July 30th,
This was good news.
we opened up the rehabilitated bridge that carries 191 over I-10 near Wilcox. You'll recall that a semi-tractor trailer crash caused significant damage to the support structure of the bridge. Almost immediately, we were able to reopen the I-10 westbound lanes, but the 191 overpass itself remained closed. So we're very happy that the access has been restored and the bridge is now open to traffic. We know that that was a considerable impact for the community, travelers, and we really appreciate the patience. While the major work is complete, there is going to be some lane striping in September, but for the most part, everything is complete. Just a real quick update where we are with the Douglas Port of Entry Connector Road study. Currently, we're in the home stretch of the study part, which includes a design concept report and environmental assessment. And the goal is to identify the preferred connector road location to provide that connectivity between US 80 and the Federal Commercial Port of Entry, set to be built west of the current Douglas Commercial Land Port of Entry. We are anticipating a public hearing by the end of this year and likely see completion of the study by early next year, and after that we'll jump into the design phase with the same consultant and technical teams. There is some funding outlined in the 5-year program for design and construction, but we know additional funds are needed. We continue to work with the local agencies to seek out funding and grant opportunities for this project. As always, we really appreciate the importance of our stakeholders, including the public, the City of Douglas, Cochise County, and our federal partners. It's a big undertaking, and the result is something that will have an extremely positive impact on the region and the entire state. I'll move on and share with you a quick update on our recent meeting that ADOT had with Freeport-McMoran that also included representatives from DPS and the Governor's Office of Highway Safety. So we held a meeting which focused on a safety initiative along US 191 between Safford and the Morenci mine. And the mine, as you know, operates 24 hours a day, and many employees, as was just noted, uses this section of roadway on a daily basis. We committed to performing a roadway safety assessment for this stretch, and we'll use the assessment data in order to assist with the safety initiative in connection with Freeport-McMoran and other stakeholders. And lastly, I'll wrap things up with a quick safety message. It is still wildfire season in Arizona, and we want to make sure that we're all doing our part to give firefighters a break. As motorists, we can do a lot to prevent the vehicle-caused wildfires. Don't throw your cigarettes out of your vehicle window. Don't park in tall grass or brush because the heat underneath your vehicle can set that vegetation on fire. Make sure you secure your tow chains before heading out to avoid those sparks. And check your tire pressure before you travel because those exposed wheel rims can also cause sparks. So in addition, I just want to note we do not have a legislative report this month. Don't anticipate much happening until the beginning of session next year. Thank you. I'd be happy to take any questions.
All right. Thank you, Director Toth. Ms. Howard, Mr. Maxwell, any questions for Director Toth? Mr. Maxwell.
Director, thank you for the update, and then congratulations on the awards and the leadership program that you've got going on up at ADOT is truly amazing. So good work continued on that. So the Douglas Port of Entry update brought something to mind. May have been the last time we were in Graham County, not positive. We brought up the idea there was a lot of concern on some roads, particularly a roadway out of the port to get back up to I-10, and as you know, to bring the goods and services and people that presumably be coming through the new port of entry. And there was a topic about us taking a look at if any of those routes should be considered for inclusion in the state route system due to their size and to the magnitude of traffic. And we brought up the idea of taking a look at both the system of how we bring state routes roads into the state route system, but also, do we have state routes that probably don't belong in the state route system anymore, particularly ones that have been now encumbered by urban growth? So I just was wondering if there's been any movement or if there's anything going on inside of ADOT right now to either prepare a study session or some time for us to look at that, or basically if we've made any progress.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell, for bringing that up.
I don't know if I can address that directly, but it looks like Mr. Byers can.
Board Member Maxwell and the rest of the board members, from the proposed port that we're looking at in Douglas, the main route that trucking would take coming through that port would be 80 up to 191 over to I-10. Now there will be some traffic that will also turn and head west to get there. What we're looking at right now is there is a path to get through on 80 that takes you all the way through, and basically that route would be very minimal because the majority of the traffic that would be coming across the port would be trying to get to I-10 because they're either going to be going east or west. So it'd be a very minimal amount of traffic that'd be turning west on 80. So we are looking at on 191, we have a bridge over the railroad that is in our 5-year program to be replaced. Right now that's a 2-lane bridge. It's very narrow. It also has a high ramp to get up and over. So we're looking at replacing that. It'll actually be on a separate alignment of what we have right now. So that's basically the main impediment that we have for that truck traffic. As part of the DCR, we are looking at a route that will go all the way to I-10 to identify any improvements that need to be done as well.
Mr. Byers, and if I may, and Mr. Maxwell, I think that the question is actually larger than that. The question, the discussion did come up on the port But as we look at the whole transportation system, there's been discussion about roads that need to be brought into the ADOT system statewide, and roads that maybe need to be dropped from the transportation system. And I think that might be some of the question that Mr. Maxwell asked. And I think as a board, we would like to have that discussion sooner than later.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we'd be happy to present. We do have a turnback policy which goes both ways, and we can definitely bring that forward in either in a formal session or a study session and have that discussion.
And I believe that was...
And Mr. Chair, thank you. That was the brunt really of the question, because last time, again, I think it was in Graham, and correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but the Naco Highway was one of the things that came up, and there are some roads that are getting more and more usage, and with that traffic, it might be incidental, it might not be the main route for the truck traffic coming up, but we're hoping that port prospers and it does get more traffic. And then you've got roads like Oracle, which is the state route now, and it's almost completely encompassed by the urban buildup. So I think it's just something we need to consider, because we already know that the funding is short to take care of all the roads we need. We can't just take them one way. So if there are roads that make perfectly good sense to become part of the state highway system, we want to consider doing that. But then we also have to look at the ones that we're funding that maybe the responsibility falls elsewhere as well.
Exactly. Thank you, Mr. Maxwell. Ms. Howard, any questions?
If I may, I would just like to comment again. Every month, we sit down to these meetings and we see additional formed relationships with ADOT and local industry and rural Arizona, tribal, and it's so good to see, because a lot of people don't know that. They think ADOT is metro, and it's just a great thing to see that ADOT spans the entire state on a equal level with everyone. So I appreciate that much, Director Toth and staff, and just doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Okay, let me reach out to our online participants. Ms. Daniels, do you have any questions for Director Toth?
I do not at this time, thank you.
All right, Mr. Elters, any questions?
Mr. Chair, no questions, however, a comment, but we're having a very difficult time hearing many of the speakers, including board members. So if you could please try your best so we can hear and be engaged in this meeting. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Meck, any questions? Ms. Peslakai, any questions? All right, I'm going to go ahead and move.
I do not right now, but I do concur that there is audio is unclear, and is especially true for the board members.
All right, thank you, Ms. Peslakai. That will conclude item number 1, our director's report. Item number 2, we are going to forego. Mr. Emery, you'll get a pass on any type of report today. We'll now move to item number 3, which is our consent agenda. Does any member have an item they would like removed from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion from Ms. Howard.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Maxwell, and if I may say, I may need you all day long for the motions and seconds. So, unless our remote people want to step up quicker. So I have a motion by Ms. Howard and a second by Mr. Maxwell for the consent agenda. There is no discussion. And as we do have several remotely, I am going to ask if there's any opposition before I ask for the ayes. So is there any opposition to the motion in front of us?
No opposition.
Hearing no opposition, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Item passes unanimously.
So Mr. Chairman, if I could apologize, but I do want to acknowledge that Board Member Mack had to leave the meeting. He logged off and did not vote on this item. So it would be 6 ayes from all the rest of the board members, and he will be unable to participate for the rest of the meeting.
All right, very good. Thank you, Mr. O'Rourke. With that, we'll move to item number 4, which is our financial report. Ms. Ward.
Oh, hold on, Mr. Chairman. It looks like Mr. Beck is back in the meeting. Mr. Beck, are you still there?
Go ahead and let's continue, Ms.
Yes,
Ward.
okay, please. I'll see if I can get a hold of him, Mr. Chairman.
All right. As long as we continue to have a quorum, we should be good.
Good morning, board members. How are you this morning? I thank you very much for the dinner last night. It was a great deal of fun. I enjoyed having conversations with folks. So, if we could go to the first slide. I get to do this myself. Thank you. I get control here. All right, so we have our first month of revenues reporting for 2025, fiscal year 2025, and we are immediately out of target range, unfortunately, with revenues under forecast by 3% and having collected $144 million. The variance in the forecast equates to about $1.6 million. And is not a concern at this point, but I'll tell you more of the why on this next slide. So what this slide depicts is the individual revenue categories that flow into the Highway User Revenue Fund. The reason for the variance that you saw on the previous slide, that being out of forecast range, is largely associated with used fuel, aka diesel fuel tax revenues. You will see we had a very strong month in July with 14% growth over our previous year in used fuel taxes. What we have experienced is some very volatile growth rates recently, and that has made forecasting a little difficult. June of last year, we had 24+% growth. We forecast 21% growth. It came in at 14% growth. So that's kind of thrown these initial month forecasts off. Again, I do not anticipate a problem. We actually anticipate, as sometimes happens, we will see the forecasts come back into range as each month progresses. As we look at the Regional Area Road Fund, aka RARF, the final RARF revenues are in. We ended the year right within forecast range at 0.8% over forecast. We collected $751 million over the year. Again, this slide shows those individual revenue categories that flow into RARF for the final month of the year, June. We were a bit behind forecast, but again, 0.8% up. We were a little bit behind forecast for the month, but a little bit over for the entirety of the year. So a topic that often comes up this time of year and makes for a lot of conversation is we are in the month of August, yes. I'm like, oh my goodness, did we sneak into September? No, we are in the month of August, and what typically happens is we go through the federal process called August redistribution. So I'm going to give you a little preview. We submitted our August redistribution request recently to FHWA, and the department requested $218 million from that process, and we have yet to hear whether we are actually what we are going to receive. Hopefully it's pretty certain by next board meeting, we'll be able to tell you how much we received. Those dollars, again, they have to be soaked up very quickly. We have to obligate them, aka soak up very quickly. And so what we do is we program those funds. We identify the projects that the board has already approved and we basically pay ahead on those projects, freeing up funds in the future year that can come back to this board to be programmed. So stay tuned. If we get that 218, I think last year we got 225, so we'll be just a little under, but these are mammoth numbers to what we have experienced historically. Typically, August redistribution prior to these most recent, these last couple of years runs at a high of 65 million. So thank you, IIJA.
If I could ask, is there any chance that we would lose any funding?
No, sir. Fortunately, that is not the way the August redistribution process has worked.
Just clarification. Okay.
With that, I'd be happy to take any additional questions.
All right. Mr. Maxwell.
First off, if anybody online can't hear this, I'm about as close to the microphone as I can humanly get. Christine, great, as always, great report. How do we determine the number that we're going to ask for in the August redistribution?
We are confined a bit by the amount we can request, and that confinement is associated with something I would really not appreciate trying to explain, but we have essentially what they call apportionments, and think of those as checks. And then what we get through August redistribution, we get obligation authority. Think of that as cash. We are contained by the amount of apportionments that we have and projects that align with those apportionments. So if you don't have enough checks, you can't ask for cash beyond that which you have checks. I hope that got it. Is that...
That definitely helped a little, so thank you, and I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Ms. Daniels, any questions for Ms. Ward?
I do not have any today, thank you.
All right. Mr. Elters, any questions?
No, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Meck, any questions?
No questions, thank you.
All right. Ms. Peschlakai, any questions for Ms. Ward?
No questions.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, Ms. Ward, you are off the hook. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We'll now go to item number 5 with Mr. Hossein, our multimodal planning division report.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and the members of the board. My name is Iqbal Hussain, Deputy Director of Multimodal Planning Division. Today I will present items 5, 6, and 7. A portion of item 5, which is related to AZ Smart Fund, will be presented by Lisa Denka, MPD Program Manager. So I'll start with item number 5, Multimodal Planning Division report. The first one is Tribal Transportation Update. On August 2nd, the Multimodal Planning Division issued the notice to proceed for the Inter-Tribal Council of Arizona Tribal Liaison and Transportation Working Group project. The primary objective of the project is to enhance communication, consultation, coordination, and the coordination between ADOT, FSWA, and the tribes in Arizona. Inter-Tribal Council of Arizona will provide technical assistance through assessments and support, focusing on tribal safety, tribal law enforcement support, and tribal aviation. The goal is to optimize efforts across all parties without duplicating work. In addition to the technical support, Inter-Tribal Council of Arizona and ADOT MPD will conduct regular meetings to share transportation-related information with Arizona tribes and gather feedback on their concerns. A project startup meeting is scheduled for August 22nd with ADOT project managers, ADOT tribal relation team, and the Inter-Council of Arizona Executive Director to discuss the next step. As part of ADOT MPD Tribal Aviation Outreach and Initiative, I would like to share some updates on tribal transportation. First, on the 2024 Tribal Aviation Symposium will be held virtually on August 21st and August 22nd, hosted by US DOT and the Federal Aviation Administration. This year's topics include federal aviation initiatives, tribal engagement policy and process, resource sharing, and the Tribal Airport Capital Improvement Program. Tribal leaders and the tribal airport managers are encouraged to attend to this symposium. The next one is on the 2024 Arizona Rural Transportation Summit will take place in Prescott in person on October 16 and 17. The summit agenda features several tribal sessions offering opportunity for tribe, state, and federal officials to discuss tribal aviation funding. Again, tribal leaders and the tribal airport managers are encouraged to attend this meeting. A representative from ADOT MPD Aeronautics will be available to assist with the discussion. Additionally, ADOT MPD is considering holding a tribal airport manager and tribal aeronautics work group meeting this fall. We will be sharing more information and participation requests with tribal officials and tribal airport managers for all 12 tribal airports in Arizona. Lastly, the ADOT Aeronautics Group will begin scheduling a statewide annual Airport Capital Improvement Program meetings during fall and winter. These meetings, specific to each airport, will also provide an opportunity for both tribal and non-tribal airport managers to discuss their airport issues, funding needs, and upcoming projects. A meeting is scheduled for September 12th between ADOT and the Navajo Nation. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the deployment of Navajo Nation traffic and criminal software known as TRAX. And TRAX is a mobile crash reporting system. Another meeting is set for August 26th between ADOT and Tohono O'odham Nation to discuss the upcoming SR 86 wildlife crossing projects. Statewide P2P district workshops have been scheduled by ADOT districts to discuss project priorities and potential modifications. These workshops will review scoring and district priorities to help shape the FY 2026 through FY 2030 5-year construction program. The workshops are set for September in all districts and invitations have been sent out to the tribes and the stakeholders. The workshop will take place in Northeast and Northwest districts on September 9, Southwest district on September 11, South Central on September 12, North Central and on September 16, and Southeast and Central districts on September 17. This concludes my presentation on tribal updates. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Mr. Hussain on this portion of our agenda? All right.
Now, This is one we'll have to go to the second presentation you sent. So,
Okay, yeah, sure.
And that will be the AC Smart presentation.
Correct. So, Mr. Chair and the members of the board, the next item will be AZ Smart Fund Program updates, and this item will be presented by Lisa Denka, the MPD Programming Manager. I'll come back with items 6 and 7.
Good, thank you.
Good morning, members. My name is Lisa Denka, and I am the Programming Manager for ADOT and also the AZ Smart Program Manager. I do believe that Floyd had sent out to the board a copy of the draft request for grant applications, and I'm not going to go through all 71 pages, but I do want to explain it at a very high level and help you understand why it looks the way it looks. So as we shared with the board in the past, House Bill 2318 made some significant changes to the program, and the primary one was the change in the eligibility of applicants from the usual suspects of cities, towns, and counties to any entity eligible for a federal grant. And I know it's hard to see, but this table to the left in this slide shows the changes in the type of applicants that we are now eligible for the program. In addition to cities, towns, and counties, we now have tribes, we have individuals, we have for-profit corporations, we have some unions, and we also have associations. In addition, by virtue of bringing in the other applicants and the other modes, particularly rail and transit, we're anticipating that we know of at least an additional 31 possible grants that are now eligible for the AC Smart program, primarily from federal transit, federal rail, and the Motor Carrier Safety Administrations. There's one here close to the bottom. I think it's the second from the bottom in terms of new potential eligible applicants, and that's my favorite. The good old to be identified in the NOFO. Unfortunately, as you know, we're working with the same funding, and do not anticipate any additional appropriations from the legislature for a couple of years. Okay. Another challenge resulting from that change to any entity that's now eligible to a federal discretionary grant is something called the gift clause, and that is posted on the screen here. The section highlighted in yellow is what we are stubbing our toes on, and we have proposed a way around it. It's imperfect, but we're trying to figure out how to deal with these requirements. There's a large body of court case information related to the gift clause. And in order for us to be able to make awards to corporations, individuals, nonprofits, etc., we have to deal with something called the two-prong gift clause test. The first prong is we have to demonstrate that the project is on a public asset for a public benefit. Then we have to quantify the public benefit, and it has to exceed the cost of the public funds going towards that project. So allow me to catch up with my notes here. So what we have proposed is something called the benefit cost ratio, which, as I mentioned, is imperfect. Most of our applications have gone to design, and a benefit cost ratio is very challenging to develop in the early stages of a project. But we are looking for some other constructive suggestions on how to deal with this. And if anybody's got any ideas, let us know. The U.S. Department of Transportation has developed guidance on benefit cost ratios. They are required for almost every federal grant. And they have developed a tool. It's essentially a spreadsheet that enables the applicant to input certain information, and the BC ratio is automatically calculated for them. And so that is the tool that we are recommending at this point in the proposal. Again, not a perfect fit.
If I could ask a question on that.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
As these grant applications come in and ADOT goes through them and for the recommendations, is it a safe assumption that this issue will be covered on any of these grant applications that are coming from individuals, associations, or corporations?
Mr. Chair, it's unclear on how this would need to be applied. There are some that believe it has to be applied broadly, and pending further clarification from legal minds, I only play one on TV, we have proposed that it be applied widely. It is possible that we could just limit it to the non-public subdivision applicants, but there hasn't been agreement on that yet.
Mr. Metcher.
Yeah, this is a problematic potential. There are a lot of organizations that watch counties, cities, and others and then challenge the give clause quite often if they don't like the use of the funds in court. And I understand that we're trying to open this up, or the legislature was trying to open this up to make more people applicable. My concern with the benefit cost ratios, and whatever we put forward, I think we need to make sure that we're using for consideration. If we try to establish minimums or any hard and fast rule number, one, you're tying the hands of the board for consideration between projects, because we have limited funds. We have to consider not just whether this is a good project or not, but this is a good project compared to others that have either been done before or in the past. So there is some judgment that has to be left in it. And that's the danger I see with the expansion that we've been asked to hear to individuals, associations, or corporations. I mean, it becomes problematic. So I think when you go through the process that you're setting up for us, we want to avoid doing things in our documents that make it a minimum, and we have to leave up the flexibility for consideration of the board. And now that I'm done pontificating, I did have a question. You said we don't have any expectation of additional funds from the legislature in the next several years. So does that mean you don't see anything changing on the amount they give us, or do you see no additional funds coming to the program? So what we're currently sitting with is all we have going forward?
Mr. Chairman, members, my understanding from our government relations team, and Kevin may have a different take on it, but my understanding is we were not expecting any additional legislative appropriations into the fund for the next couple of years. Now, we will continue to earn interest income, so that will continue to grow the fund a little bit, but in terms of a significant deposit, really the only place it might come from is the Arizona legislature.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
While we're taking this break, any other questions? All right, continue.
Director, did you want to make a comment?
Well, I would just say we don't have a crystal ball to look at and see what the legislature may appropriate or not, so we will plan accordingly.
Mr. Chair, members, if I can respond to one of the comments that was made. In the proposal, we do reflect that the benefit cost ratio would need to be 1, which means that the benefit and the cost are equal, essentially. It is a proposal, it's merely a draft, and it's purely for, the board's consideration and for stakeholder review and comment. So, this is completely changeable. Just want to make that clear. Okay, we have another statute that we have to deal with. We have determined that this program is subject to what's called the grant statute, and that is included in the 71-page packet, and it dictates various types of requirements that are reflected in the proposal. The grant statute essentially requires the use of the request for grant application format, and that is how the document has been structured. We also have to identify priority criteria that will be used to evaluate the applications. We must have a solicitation period of at least 6 weeks before the applications are due. We have to identify due dates for the awards, and the applications will need to be evaluated by at least 3 qualified individuals, among other things that the statute requires. Now, the RFGA is used by most state agencies that do grants, and I've listed a few of them here on the screen. The document is structured more like a procurement, although it is still a grant application and contract. And the primary benefit of this approach is that all of the administrative work, including approval by the applicant's governing body, would be done before they submit an application to AZ SMART. And this is particularly important because the SMART statute now requires that applicants who get awards for design, which is more than a half of our awards heretofore, they must apply for a federal discretionary grant within 2 years of that date of award. And the average time for development of a project is 12 to 18 months. And so we're pushing up against a danger zone where applicants may or may not be able to apply. If they can't apply in that time frame, they've got to repay the SMART funds. And we don't want to get to that point. We don't want anybody in that situation. So that is, and you guys will have to rescind the award. That's the other thing contained in the statute. So we're trying to put as much of the approval, administrative work on the front end before it even comes to you so that we're ready to go as soon as possible. So this slide shows the high-level table of contents in the RFGA. It is linked throughout the document, and internal to the document, we are providing links to the definitions, which are in the back, to the statutes, which are also included, to websites and documents. In addition, we are providing a list of the documents and statutes and guidelines in the introduction section. We are providing a link to ADOT's E2C2 database, which is updated after you award contracts on a monthly basis, and it contains historic bid unit prices to help applicants understand what it really costs, to build a federal aid project. We've also included a checklist to assist applicants with gathering up their required documents. There's a copy of the application in there to help them prepare, and there's even a sample governing board resolution which can be adapted to their needs. And then finally, just wanted to note that there is a proposed revision to the board's SMART Fund policy number 45. It's included in the packet, but obviously at the time you're prepared to approve whatever goes forward for the program, we would have you approve that, that policy separately. Okay. So based on the changes that we've discussed, primarily the gift clause and the grant statute, there are some important changes, some of which I've alluded to in discussions with you in the past. On the next couple of slides, the first column here shows the element. The second column shows the reason or the justification for what's being proposed. And then the third column incorporates notes or additional information. First is the change to the RFGA format, which I've already covered. Next is the benefit cost ratio, which we've already talked about. Then the priority criteria, which first of all, the board is allowed to identify additional criteria in the new legislation, and criteria is also required by the grant statute. And then the board also has the authority to determine the applicant's technical and financial capacity to deliver a project. Any questions on this slide before I move on?
Actually, I don't have any questions. I just got a comment. It seems like in the attempt to broaden the accessibility of this grant to other entities, we've made it a lot more difficult for everybody else.
Mr. Chairman, I would not argue with that.
All right, careful what you ask for.
It's terrible.
Next slide. We will have to require additional documentation. If someone says they're a nonprofit, we're going to have that documentation in our file. So going back to them for their IRS determination letter and things of that nature. Again, to this case, this body of case law on the gift clause, it does set a certain standard. We also are suggesting quarterly application rounds. Some of this is a function of ADOT staff needing additional time. We also want to build in a courtesy technical review, however. We are seeing project budgets routinely underestimated. And we can only reimburse expenses that are to federal standards. And we are now starting to see expenses that do not meet those standards.
These new requirements are going to go into place after the first of the year, is that correct?
No, sir. They are effective September 14th.
September 14th. Okay. Ms. Maxwell.
So a follow-up question. So the creation of this RFGA, is this a ADOT process, or is it something the board has to accept? Or I guess what I'm trying to get at too is, we already heard at least one of the call to the audience members, let's be careful of what we're doing here. And I don't think that the legislature's intention with the addition of the additional groups would have been to make this more difficult to get. The purpose of the SMART funds at the beginning was to make it more accessible and provide the rural communities the opportunity. I think we got into some trouble with the fact that there were areas of larger municipalities that could get access to it, and I don't know if that was their intent. But are all these changes being driven by the incorporation of the individuals, the associations or corporations, or are these rules that maybe should have been in place in the first couple of years of execution?
Good question.
Mr. Chair, members, the grant statute probably applied from the get-go. Okay. The other issues, benefit cost ratio, some of those other things, is a function of opening it up to any entity eligible for a federal discretionary grant. So it's a little bit of a double whammy here. If we did not have the issue with the gift clause, we'd still have to do the request for grant application, but it would, let's just say, be less challenging.
Thank you.
Any questions from our online board members? All right, continue.
So, Mr. Chairman, Ms. Peshlikai has raised her hand. I think she has a comment.
All right. Ms. Peshlikai?
Yes. Thank you. I'm not really sure if this is where I would add my comments, but because the audio is kind of tricky here. But I think the changes that have been made make it much more difficult for smaller jurisdictions that need a little bit more time. And then I think, I've written grants and have ran grants before, and they don't always require a benefit cost ratio, and it just adds
Ms. Daniels also raised her hand.
burden to those that are applying for these grants. And then the quarterly, I think that is the quarterly applications. They should be still in the 6 to 4 week time frame instead of having folks wait for 3 to 4 months for feedback on those applications. Okay. I think that's it for now. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Peshlikai. Ms. Daniels, I understand that you might have a question or a comment?
Thank you, Chair. I think all of the board members, it sounds like to me, based on the questions that are being asked, have all received some of the same concerns from our stakeholders. And so I think what I would like to ask that we do is ensure that there be some more dialogue between stakeholders and our ADOT teams in order to ensure that we've thought through all of these components and that there isn't another path forward. Obviously, they've all expressed concern about the 4-month lead time, about the cost-benefit analysis, which, again, there's just a few things I think that we've all been reached out to say, hey, this is making it a lot more difficult, particularly for our rural communities who we know are sometimes challenged with the resources to even apply for these grants. So I would just like to see there be some more dialogue. I don't know that the board meeting is the right place to sort of work out the details. In fact, I know that it's not. That's, I always think policy making from the dais is very, very tricky. So I would love to hear that there's additional conversations and some balancing going on between our ADOT teams and some of the stakeholders who hope to apply for and receive these funds.
Good point, Ms. Daniels. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, members, I have put the revised program schedule up on the screen. It was always our intent to have additional conversation with the stakeholders. This document's going out for public comment on Monday, and it will be out for 3 weeks. Public comment will run through September 6th. We absolutely welcome any constructive ideas that can help us make the program easier while still complying with the things that are before us. And we will bring the comments back to the board and talk with you about them to look at the way to go forward. We have also met with the County Supervisors Association and the League of Cities and Towns to discuss the, unless we go back and exempt ADOT from, or the AZ Smart program, from the grant statute, that remains. Even if we go back to the legislature and fix the issue that has us stubbing our toe on the gift clause, okay? So The stakeholders were very eager to have the program active as soon as possible. That did not give us a lot of time to talk to everybody in advance. So that work will have to happen now that we have we have something people to look at and respond to. And I'm happy to answer any other questions.
Director Toth, did you have a?
No, she's covered.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
I have a comment if I could. I was so excited to know that the MPOs and COGS could help smaller rural communities with these grants because they didn't have the finances or the capacity to do them. And I am very, very dismayed. And I was excited that we have the ability to move some funding around to help those that are able to apply. But I'm very dismayed at the complexity of the process being times the magnitude of 3 of what it was before. That's going to totally offset these abilities. And I'm looking forward to further discussion and the public comment as well. So thank you very much.
Any other comments from our remote participants? All right. Thank you for the report. What's next? Mr. Hossein, okay.
We will need a presentation for item 6, please.
So we're going to item 6 now. Okay, we're done with 5.
I hope we're done with 5.
Yes.
All right, item 6, PPAC items.
All right. Good morning again, Mr. Chair and the members of the board. Now I will present item number 6, Priority Planning Advisory Committee action items to the board for discussion and possible action. Mr. Chair and the members of the board, for your consideration, I would like to present the proposed changes to FY 2025 through FY 2029 State Transportation Facilities Construction Program. Items 6A through 6AAA are new projects and project modifications. These projects are shown in 3 different slides. This is slide number 1. This is 2. And this is 3.
And Mr. Hossein, just for the comment, I think the board appreciates the summary on the chart that we have this time around. It does make looking at them all at one time a lot easier.
Thank you.
Are there any questions on the list of the PPAC items that are being proposed at this time? So it's just a matter of efficiency. I would entertain a motion to modifications and new projects, items 6A through 6AA, as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Howard.
Second.
Second by Mr. Maxwell. Any discussion on the items in front of us? Or questions? Hearing none, here again I will ask for any oppositions up front. Are there any opposed to the motion in front of us?
Mr. Chair, I just want to make one clarification. The last slide we've got up there shows through 6W. And as I'm looking through the book, do you want us to make this motion through 6W or all the way through AA?
Correct, from 6A through 6AAA.
Double A. It's 6
Double A.
AA.
All right. It is 6A through 6AA.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. Once again, is there any opposed to the motion?
Sorry, double A, yes.
Hearing no opposition, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Item 6 passes unanimously. Now move to item number 7.
Excuse me. This is Member Peshelkai.
Yes.
I was slow to unmute and raise my hand, but I just wanted to point out that 1/3 of the state of Arizona, the northern part, which I represent as the member, there is no project up north in that is a concern. And
Well, Ms.
I
Pescalati,
apologize for being slow to unmute and raise my hand. I just wanted to make sure that folks clearly saw that.
all right.
But I do vote in favor of the motion.
Okay. And just for clarification, Ms. Pescalati, these are modifications to existing projects and not movements on new projects. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification.
All right. So once again, motion carried unanimously. We'll now have item number 7. And Mr. Hossein, you are presenting this as well, correct? The Smart Fund application for Flagstaff.
Next slide for item number 7, please. Mr. Chair and the members of the board, then I will move on to item number 7, AZ Smart Fund Program, and present to the board for discussion and possible action. Today we have one AZ Smart application on the agenda, and the full application is included in the agenda packet.
Has everyone had an opportunity to review the application for the City of Flagstaff? Any questions on the application in front of us? Hearing no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve the Smart Grant application for the City of Flagstaff.
I so move to approve this application. If there's any... Now it's on. I so move to approve this application for the AC Smart Fund application by the City of Flagstaff. I would, however, like to see if we've got the total summary chart that we always have with the smart funds to see what's remaining.
All right, I believe there's like 800,000 in that pot.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I would like to second that and also add a congratulations to their award for the Safe Streets for All grant. We were up in Flagstaff several months ago, and they are very focused on their surface transportation. And I'm very happy they were awarded that grant and happy to assist as well. So I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Maxwell and a second by Ms. Howard. And this is to approve the Arizona Smart Fund application for the City of Flagstaff and the amount requested by the applicant. If there is no other questions or comment, is there any opposed to the motion in front of us? Hearing no opposition, all those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, chair votes aye. Item number 7 passes unanimously. So now moving on, we will now move on to item 8, which is the Economic Strength Projects. And Mr. Hossein, you're going to present this, but before, Mr. Elters, it's my understanding that you want to recuse yourself from the Mojave County application, is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do wish to do so, thank you.
All right, so then we will look this as 2 different motions then. All right, Mr. Hossein, I'll turn it over to you.
So next is item number 8, Economic Strength Projects Grant. Glenn Legoki, the MPD Planning Manager, will present item 8 for discussion and possible action.
Thank you, Iqbal. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I'm Clem Legaki with Multimodal Planning. Happy to be here today to present to you the recommendations this year for the Economic Strength Project Fund that were provided by the Arizona Commerce Authority. So we'll talk about that. When I get to the end of the presentation,
Do you have the clicker?
yes, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, when I get to the end of the presentation, you'll notice I do have a slide that's for the recommended motion. Of course, we'll adjust that based on what you had stated about splitting the motion, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so this is obviously an action item.
Just a little bit about the fund. This is a partnership with the Arizona Commerce Authority as provided in the statute. I'd like to thank the Commerce Authority publicly for how they worked with us this year and all the work they did to provide that for the partnership that we have and do that. So this program...
Forgive me for interrupting, I apologize. We're getting quite a bit of feedback on the line. I'm not sure if maybe one of the board members needs to mute themselves, but it's, we're getting a lot of feedback.
Staying here, Jackson next.
All right. Does that make a difference?
Yes, I think whatever issue it was may have been resolved. Thank
All right. That's the chair's mic, so I am going to mute it. Okay.
All right, thank you. So this program is pretty straightforward. Each year, ADOT transfers $1 million from the Highways Revenue Fund to the Economic Strength Project Fund. The monies remain in the fund. They do not lapse, so they can't build. Projects are recommended by the Arizona Commerce Authority as is provided in statute, and then the board's role is to approve the projects once they're recommended by the Commerce Authority. So because they're HERF monies, they have to be street or highway projects because that's the constitutional requirement for HERF funds. But in this particular program, they must meet these other criteria, either retaining jobs, creating significant new jobs, leading to some significant capital investment, or making some other significant contribution to the economy. These are the evaluation criteria in statute. There's a bunch of them. If you look at the top, the cost of the project, down at the bottom, the schedule, so those are typical important items. Everything else in between are economic benefit types criteria, and so they consider these in the formula that they have. They do have a committee that meets to do that, to take applications and things such as we do as well. So there are 4 projects before you. This is the list here, this order of rank in terms of how the Commerce Authority prioritized them. Note that this did go through the Priority Planning Advisory Committee on August 7th, as now we're bringing forward to you as also provided in statute. So I'm just going to quickly go through the projects. I won't read all of the information, but as you can see, Tom Taylor is the first applicant. These are in order of priority by the Commerce Authority. This is kind of a second phase. Back in 2020, there was an airport loop road paving project that was approved from ESP, and now this Cessna Loop Road ties in the airport loop road back into Pinedale Road and provides a corridor to the airport industrial park. This is just a quick graphic. I know it's going to be hard to see from there. Hopefully you have it in your packet. But you see the green line is the new Cessna Loop Road, and it ties in to Airport Loop Road. That's kind of on the west there. And then on the east is the existing Pinedale Road.
What is the dollar amount on that one?
I've got it in the list in the table that will come up. I don't want to misstate it. I think I know what it is, but we'll get to the table. Second is City of Kingman. This is a 3/4 mile roadway reconstruction to support the Kingman Airport Industrial Park. The roads are pretty old, as you can see in the picture that I have next here. Oops, I gotta go back. Sorry. You can look on the right there, you can see some potholes even from the distance with the size of this slide, the scale of the slide. So it's been many years. So this will improve those roads to make them more accessible, and the connection will be better. The third one is Bullhead City. This is a deceleration lane on State Route 95. Now this is that segment of 95 which was turned back to Bullhead City earlier this year, so know that. It's a very large mixed-use development that this will serve. You see there's quite a bit of activity there. And you see the size of the development. In blue there is highlights where 95 is compared to the project. Mojave County is the fourth applicant. It's a new 1-mile county highway, Cane Beds Road. That'll provide another access to the Centennial Park community there, and also ties into State Route 389. And there's a graphic of that. The boundaries limits are shown there with those text boxes. And then you can see the road, a little different time of year, a little different climate. And exhibited there, you see the improvements, how those could be helpful there. Here's our list in terms of the dollar amounts. This is just a quick summary of the 4 projects that I mentioned. And you see projected new jobs there that are significant in each of these projects. Obviously, the Bullhead City project is a much larger development, so you'll see a much larger number there. In all cases except Mojave County, the amount that was requested is the amount that's being recommended for award by the Commerce Authority. So in the case of Taylor, they requested $380,000. That's the recommended award, $380,000. And then for Kingman, they requested $450,000, and that's the recommended award amount also. Bullhead City requested $500,000, and that's the amount recommended. And in the case of Mojave County, which was the 4th priority, they requested $500,000. Their award is $325,698 because that was the balance remaining in the fund, and they were the 4th of the priority of the 4 projects. So that's the summary. Those are the amounts, and then as I click to the next slide, we'll of course change the motion, but you see a little easier to read there the dollar amounts for each of the projects and the total. You may recall that in the beginning I said we transfer $1 million a year into the ESP fund, and this obviously is more than $1 million. So there's reasons for that. One is that there is some interest in the fund, and the other reason is that there was a project in a previous year that was returned because the timing didn't work out, and they returned the money to the fund. So that's why we ended up with almost 1.7 million here. So this will use up the money in the fund, presumably, if it's approved, and then next year there'll be another $1 million available and potentially some interest.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Lagaki. Questions? Any questions from our remote board members?
Mr. Chairman, is your mic on?
Oh. Okay, let me turn my mic back on. Thank you. Ms. Daniels, was the could you hear better with my mic off?
Sorry, repeat the question, please.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Lagaki at this time?
No questions, but I just want to thank everybody for bringing this forward this month, and also for the collaboration. I think these economic development linked projects. I think every single one of our projects, by the way, has an economic development impact and a link there. But I think being able to see it and have people be really sort of thoughtful about it in the actual content. So thank you. It's very helpful for me.
Okay, I would like to go with 2 different motions. Motion 1 would be...
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I will move that the following awards as recommended by the Arizona Commerce Authority be approved as presented for the town of Taylor, the city of Kingman, and Bullhead City.
I'll second it.
All right, I have a motion and a second to approve Bullhead City, City of Kingman, and Town of Taylor. If there's no other questions or comments, I will ask if there's any opposed to the motion in front of us. Hearing no opposition, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, the chair votes aye. The motion is unanimous.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Maxwell.
I'd like to move that the following award, as recommended by the Arizona Commerce Authority, be approved as presented for Mojave County.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Maxwell and a second by Ms. Howard. Mr. Elters, you choose to recuse yourself from this vote?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I was recusing myself from this item.
All right, so we will show that Mr. Elters recuses himself. Is there any opposition to the motion in front of us? Hearing no opposition, all those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Item passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lugaki.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mr.
Chair, I have a
Chairman.
quick question. Do you know by chance the total number of grants that were submitted?
I can't remember, it was more than 4. I'll get you that number. I was thinking it might be 9, but I'm not sure.
Thank you.
It was more than 4.
All right. So with that, we'll now move on to, where are we? Item number 9. Mr. Byers, we've been waiting for you all morning long, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. We'll start off with the state engineers report. There's 104 projects that are under construction worth $2.4 billion. That's with a B. It's a bunch of projects. 12 projects were finalized in the month of July worth $30.4 million. Fiscal year to date, we have 12 projects have been finalized. So we'll go ahead and go through the different districts and what projects we have going. So we'll start off with the South Central District. And I've got to go through my slide here. Just a second. So we have SR 87 and Skousen traffic signal that's occurring. It is cost is $2.3 million on that. Payco's the contractor, and they're just they started in June, and they're continuing on that. We also have the I-10 widening, Ina to Ruthroff. That's roughly about 50% complete, anyone that's traveled through Tucson. We have the I-10 Country Club to Keno, which is an item that's going to occur later on in this update. We also have the I-17 Irvington design, which is currently underway. And we have SR-90 Border Patrol Station, which at this point in time is at 5% complete.
Mr. Byers, while we're on this district, can you give me the status of the bridge on Highway 80 at St. David? Has that been completed yet?
That bridge is still ongoing at this point in time.
Okay. Any estimate? We were thinking it was going to be done by the end of July.
I'll have to find out exactly what's going on with that. I don't have that handy, but I can certainly find out and let you know.
Thank you, Mr. Byers.
Yep. So next item is North Central District. We have 3 projects that are being updated. The first one is US 89, Emergency Drainage and Repairs. That project, the bid opening on it was August 9th. We also have SR 89A, Oak Creek Canyon. Currently, right now, they're working on the project along the major slope. They're doing some shotcrete work up there, trying to get that done as quickly as they possibly can. They've had issues with some of the rain that we've had over the last month. I-17, the JW Powell TI up the UP Bridge. That one is currently anticipated to be completed this fall. The next is the Southwest District. We have 3 projects there. US 60 Vicksburg to 72. That project is about 35% complete. We also have the I-10, various locations, the different truck parking. That's at about 40% complete in construction. And then we also have I-8, the Aztec Road to County Line, and that is almost finished. It's at about 98%. The next, unfortunately, we had a mix-up on this, but I got an update from Todd on this. So right now, the three projects that we're looking at, SR 88 is one of the biggest projects that, or I shouldn't say the biggest, it's probably one of the smaller ones, but it has a lot of impact. That is actually getting ready to open here fairly quickly. Contractor has really done a great job in trying to get all of the big boulders removed, and they're plating the road, getting that ready to go as well. That's been a big effort to try and expedite trying to get that project done. The next one we have is the Quinn Creek Bridge on US 60. They're at about 12% complete. That one is it's a hard project because we're having to do closures during the week to be able to get the blasting done to prepare for one of the landings on the new bridge. That's going to be ongoing for still quite a while. There's a second portion to this project. There's two bridges actually that were combined into the same project. The second portion of it will be incorporated as we have closures for the Quinn Creek Bridge as well. And then the next one is we have a project that's getting ready to kick off just right out of the side of Safford. This is the Armory Road to Safford. It's a 6 mile project. This is a pavement preservation, a mill and fill project. And like I said, it's getting ready to kick off here pretty quick. The next one we have is, let me get to it. We have the Northwest District. And there we've got three projects. We have the old Highway 66 Fork Road. That's an additional turn lane that they're working on. We also have Fort Rock TI at Markham Wash. That's at about 78% complete. And then we also have the Parks Lake Parkway, which is at 7% complete. So they're working on those projects as we speak. The next one we have is the Northeast District. In the Northeast District, we have the Coyote Wash Bridge. That project is, the first half of the bridge has been constructed. They're getting ready to kick off on the second half of the bridge. Actually, they should have started that this week. We also have the Pinta McCarroll Pavement Preservation Project. On that project, it's currently, they're doing the guardrail installations. They've also got some concrete barrier that they're working on that project. We have the Overguard and Kemperland project, which is, that project is a Cape Seal project. That one is should be completed. Actually, it was supposed to have been completed by the end of this week, so it's getting close. And then we have the US 191 Little Colorado Bridge to Cemetery Road. This is a pavement preservation project, or a pavement rehab project, actually, and that's getting ready to kick off. There was a partnering meeting that was scheduled for, or is scheduled for Monday. In the Central District, we have a couple of projects. So we have the I-17 Happy Valley, that's at about 22% complete. The SR 101 Princess de Chez, which is at about 22% complete. The SR 347 Lakeside, that's right at 100% complete. That's been opened up to traffic already. We have the US 60X Sosaman to Meridian, that's at 18% complete. And then we also have the SR 202 Val Vista to SR 101, and that project is just getting underway. It's at 0% complete right now. And then we have the I-10 Gila River Bridge, which right now is at about 4% complete. They finished the deep foundations and they're starting to put the piers coming up. So it's getting underway. That one, anybody that's driven through there, you're probably seeing all of the cranes and everything. Most of the cranes are gone now and they're starting that work coming up. But the cranes will reappear once the girders start coming back. Yep. So that's all I had for the item 9, if you have any questions on any of those projects.
Any questions for Mr. Byers on this? Mr. Maxwell, I can see your finger itching.
It's actually not a request as much. It's more of a request than a question. Appreciate the updates on I-10. If there's any chance that ADOT could and I'm sure you've got it, and you may have already published it, but if you could highlight where we could find that, of what the plan for the remainder of the I-10 project is as currently, with the current funds that are available for us to go. Probably the number one question I get from the Pima County and Southern Arizona region is, so when are they going to start I-10? I point out that they have. It's the Gila River Bridge, but everybody's kind of curious now, and it'd be great to have that information.
So we've actually established a website for it. So as that gets updated, I'll certainly let you know. So that's already underway.
Thank you, Greg.
You bet.
Any other questions for Mr. Byers? All right. Are we going to new construction contracts?
Yep, so item 10, new construction contracts. We've got several projects that we're looking at coming up, so we'll go through them in detail. So one of the big things that we have is we are starting off a new fiscal year. So right off the bat, we're starting off in the wrong direction. We're at 32.8% over what our engineers' estimates are. But we'll go through every project. So we'll start off with, this is item 10A. This is a bridge rehab project. For this project, the low bidder, actually we had 4 bidders on this project. The low bid was $1,185,850. State's estimate was $1,477,991. A difference of $292,141 below the engineer's estimate. On this one, this is, like I said, it's a bridge rehab. It has a 1-inch polyester polymer concrete bridge deck, which was came in much lower than what the engineer's estimate was. That was the biggest part of what we had. We also had the cost of the steel came in a little bit lower. Their production rates are a little bit higher than what we had estimated as well. After review and analysis of the low bid, the bid was determined to be responsive and responsible, and we recommend award to Granite Construction Company.
Any questions on this contract? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve 10A to Granite Construction Company as presented.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Howard and a second by Mr. Maxwell. Any other questions on the item? Hearing none, is there any opposition to item 10A to Granite Construction? Hearing no opposition, all those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Item 10A passes unanimously. Now I move to item 10B.
For 10B, this is a lighting project that we did. This is on I-10 and portions of I-19 in Tucson. We had 2 bidders on this project. The low bid was $1,349,003. State's estimate was $1,860,400. A difference of $511,397 under the engineer's estimate. The biggest change that we saw on this was the cost of the light fixtures were actually almost half of what we had estimated, which is a good thing. So we also saw some higher production rates than what we had anticipated as well. With the analysis of the low bid, the bid was determined to be responsive and responsible, and we recommend award to William Charles Construction Company, LLC.
Any questions on this contract?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Maxwell.
Just a quick comment. Got the opportunity to get a drive through this part of construction going on down there, and I just wanted to echo what I said last time. The ADOT crews, teams, contractors are all doing an incredible job of doing this widening through a large segment of downtown Tucson. And again, the only highway that we've got to get us from north to south, and there's been very little disruption to the traffic flow, so I appreciate the work by both the ADOT staff, ADOT crews, as well as the contractors.
All right, with that, I would entertain a motion to approve item 10B to William Charles Construction Company, LLC, as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Maxwell.
Second.
Second by Ms. Howard. Any other questions or comments before I call for the vote? Hearing none, is there any opposition to the motion in front of us? Hearing no opposition, all those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Item 10B passes unanimously. Now move to 10C.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. 10C is a pavement rehab project. This is I-40 from Crestview Drive to Joy Nevin Avenue. We had 2 bidders on this project. The low bid was $2,107,000. The state's estimate was $1,616,046. That's a difference of $490,954 over the engineer's estimate, or 30.4%. The biggest thing that we saw on this is actually a stone matrix asphalt concrete project, which is a little bit different than our normal mixes. It's a much more rigid mix, but it's also harder to actually put together. The contractor was looking at the cost of the aggregates being much higher than what we had estimated. It also requires that the asphalt mix plants actually have to do some enhancements to utilize the different grades of binder that we're utilizing. It's a highly modified binder. With that, we did go through and review and analyze the low bid. The bid was determined to be responsive and responsible, and we recommend award to Sunland Asphalt Construction, LLC.
Very good, and that's where some of our savings on the other 2 projects went. All right, very good. Any other questions for Mr. Byers on this item? I would entertain a motion to award item 10C to Sunland Asphalt Construction, LLC as presented. Ms. Howard, would you like to do this one?
Yes, I would. I'll make that motion.
All right, I have a motion by Ms. Howard. Ms. Pestelkai, would you like to second this item? All right.
Yes.
All right. I thought you might, since this is your district. So I will second by Ms. Pestelkai. With that, if there's no...
Give me that opportunity. I'm slow to my unmute button.
Well, this is the test for all you guys online. I want to make sure you're paying attention. So with that, I do have a motion by Ms. Howard and a second by Ms. Pestelkai. If there is no other questions, is there any opposition to the motion in front of us? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All right, chair votes aye. Item 10C passes unanimously. Now move to 10D.
So item 10D is a sidewalk and curb and gutter project. This is on SR 77 through the town of Taylor to Rodeo Road. We had 1 bidder on this project. The low bid was $1,204,945. The state's estimate was $1,441,494, a difference of $236,549 under the engineer's estimate, or 16.4%. The biggest difference that we saw on this was actually the contractor's cost for curb and gutter and sidewalks, with about a 20% less, or I should say faster production rate than what we had estimated. That, along with some of the other production rates that they had, which were much higher, that they anticipate going with. After review and analysis of the low bid, the bid was determined to be responsive and responsible, and we recommend award to Sholo Construction, Inc.
Very good. Any questions for Mr. Byers on this item? Hearing no questions, I would entertain a motion. It's silent on that end of the dais.
I'll make a motion we approve item 10D as presented.
All right, a motion by Ms. Howard. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, I have a second by Mr. Maxwell.
I actually heard one, and I'll defer to Mr. Meck on that one. He just called it in as well.
Was that you, Jackie?
Yes, sir.
Oh, my goodness. All right. We'll give it to you. All right, we have a second by Mr. Meck. If there's no other discussion, is there any opposition to the motion in front of us for 10D? Here, no opposition. All those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Item 10D passes unanimously. We move to 10E.
So, Mr. Chair, the next item, 10E, is a drainage improvement project. This is on SR 85 between I-8 and milepost 3.34, excuse me. We had 5 bidders on this project. The low bid was $2,298,532. State's estimate was $2,837,435. A difference of $538,903 below the engineer's estimate, or 19%. One of the big things that we saw with the low bid was they anticipate doing there's 5 different locations. They intend to do all 5 simultaneously, not one at a time, which is the way that the engineer had estimated it. Consequently, their production rates are quite a bit higher than what we had anticipated. One of the other things is as they're doing them simultaneously, all the paving work can occur in one shot. So they're looking at being able to do all that at once instead of 5 different mobilizations. So with that, after review and analysis of the low bid, the bid was determined to be responsive and responsible, and we recommend award to Combs Construction Company, Inc.
All right. Any questions on this motion, on this contract? Hearing no questions, I would entertain a motion to award item 10E to Combs Construction Company as presented.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Maxwell. Mr. Elters, would you like to second this one?
I'd be delighted, Mr. Chair.
All right. Since it's your district, I believe, I'll take a second by Mr. Elters. And with that, if there's no other questions or comments, is there any opposition to the motion in front of us? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Item 10E passes unanimously. Let's now move to 10F.
Item 10F is a roundabout on US 89. This is at the intersection of US 89 and North Lake Powell. We had 1 bidder on this project. The low bid is $4,718,804. State's estimate is $3,779,265. A difference of $939,539, or 24.9% over the engineer's estimate. On this particular project, we saw that there was a extensive increased costs in per diem. There was also increased costs in materials. There was a little slower production rate that we saw because of the distance up to the site itself. The costs were quite a bit higher than what we had anticipated. But after review and analysis of the low bid, the bid was determined to be responsive and responsible, and we recommend award to Combs Construction, Inc.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Byers on this item? All right. Hearing no questions, I would entertain a motion to award item 10F to Combs Construction Company as presented.
So moved.
A motion by Ms. Howard. Ms. Peslikai, would you like to second this, as this is your district?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I second the motion.
All right. Thank you. I have a second by Ms. Peslikai. Is there any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, is there any opposition to the item 10F? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Very good. Aye. Chair votes aye. Item 10F passes unanimously. We'll now go to 10G, which I believe is a little different. So,
10G is a little bit different. So this is a sidewalk project for the city of Glendale. We had 1 bidder on this project. The low bid was $3,353,000. The state's estimate was $2,240,980. a difference of $1,112,020, or 49.6% over the engineer's estimate. We saw a extensively high price on mobilization, traffic control, curb gutter, sidewalks, and survey. The bid appeared to be somewhat unbalanced as we went through it. The City of Glendale, after seeing the results, does not have the funds to cover the overage and has elected to rebid this project and repackage the project. So with that, after review and analysis of the low bid, we recommend the rejection of all bids.
All right, we have a recommendation to reject all bids on item 10G. Ms. Daniels, Mr. Meck, any comment on this?
No comment, but I would make a motion to be approved.
You're making a motion to reject all bids? Is that what I understand, Mr. Meck?
Yes, sir.
All right, I have a motion by Mr. Meck to reject. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that Ms. Daniels?
Sure is.
All right, thank you. So I have a motion by Mr. Meck and a second by Ms. Daniels to reject all bids on item 10G as presented. If there is no other questions or comments, is there any opposition to the motion in front of us? Hearing no opposition, all those in favor say aye.
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 It appears that the item passes unanimously and all bids were rejected. We'll now move to item number 10H.
So item 10H is a lighting project and medium installations in Bullhead City. We had one bidder on this project. The low bid was $2,620,589. The state's estimate was $3,177,588, a difference of $556,999, or 17.5% under the engineer's estimate. The biggest item that we saw on this, these are actual solar lighting systems, and the cost of the solar lighting was substantially less than what we had estimated. We also saw an increased production rate for curb and gutter for the median installations. And after review and analysis of the low bid, the bid was determined to be responsive and responsible, and we recommend award to Asphalt Paving and Supply, Inc.
All right, any questions for Mr. Byers on this, on 10H? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to award item 10H to Asphalt Paving and Supply, Inc. as presented.
Mr. Chairman, this is Sam Walters. I move the award is recommended.
Mr. Elters, thank you very much. I was going to give you a shot at this. Is there a second? Mr. Maxwell.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion by Mr. Maxwell. A second by Mr. Maxwell. I'm starting to be a little confused here. I think it's time for a drink. So, if there are no other questions or comments, is there any opposition to the motion in front of us on 10H? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 And the chair votes aye for item 10H, and it passes unanimously. We'll now move to item number 10I.
Item 10I is sidewalk improvements in the city of Nogales. We had 3 bidders on this project. The low bid was $634,595. State's estimate was $935,175, a difference of $300,580, or 32.1% under the engineer's estimate. The biggest item that we saw that was different in this is the removals of the curb, gutter, and sidewalks, as well as the installation of the sidewalks. In both cases, the production rates that the low bidder had were substantially faster than what we had anticipated. After review and analysis of the low bid, The bid was determined to be responsive and responsible, and we recommend award to Wellcon Contractors LLC.
Okay, and as this is my district, if you would allow me, I will go ahead and make the motion to approve item 10A to Wellcon Constructors LLC as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a second, and was that
That's Mr. Elters?
Mr. Elters? Was that you?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. I appreciate the support on this one. And with that, is there any opposition to item 10I? Hearing no opposition, all those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye. 10I passes unanimously to Wellcon Contractors LLC as presented. All right, item 10J. And I think this is where all our money's going.
It is. So this is the traffic interchanges on I-10 in Tucson, particularly at Country Club and Keno Parkway. This particular project is a design-build project. So what we're looking at here is the best value proposals design costs. So there's two bidders basically that were competing for this. The low bid was $441,995,000. The state's estimate was $326,014,459. This is a difference of $115,980,541, or 35.6% over the engineer's estimate. What we found with this, let me kind of get into a little series of how this works. So there was a DCR that was actually put together a little over 10 years ago. I happen to be the project manager on that, so I kind of know a little bit about it. The low bidder that we're looking at on this had come up with an entirely different configuration for both of the TIs. So consequently, the costs for doing those and the rationale for doing them was twofold. One, the traffic that we're looking at for this particular section, at the time the DCR was done, both the traffic, the total volume, as well as the truck percentages have changed somewhat dramatically over the last 10 years. So consequently, what we're looking for is to be able to handle that traffic well into the future. The difference that the configurations of the TIs that were proposed actually are better than what the DCR provided. So it works much better for that. But secondly, what it does is it can be constructed and be able to maintain traffic during construction in a much better way. So the contractor he's really done a lot of research in trying to put this together and putting these configurations together. One of the other biggest items that we saw in this was in digging into it, the contractor also found that there was some fairly substantial utility conflicts. So in his bid, he has included the cost for taking and eliminating those conflicts. So there's some utilities that are going to have to be relocated and so forth. So all of those costs are also figured into this. One of the other and probably the biggest item that we saw is ADOT undertook the final geotechnical report that was performed for this project. There was a preliminary that was done when the DCR was put together, but we went through and did the final so that we could give that information to all of the bidders, so that would lower our risk as we went forward. But when we put that together and saw the recommendations for the pavement sections particularly, because of the increase in traffic and because of the increase in truck percentages, we actually had to thicken up the sections by 2 inches over what we had in the DCR. So the cost of that additional 2 inches across all of the construction that we saw that's where the majority of this goes up. We did not adjust the engineer's estimate to account for that 2 inches because that occurred after we had already done our estimate. The contractors did get enough time to be able to analyze that, to put forth, but we did not change our estimate as that information had already been put together. So what we've seen on this is it is a very good bid. It is a responsive and reasonable, and we recommend award to Sun Construction, Inc.
Thank you, Mr. Vyers, and I will say this is a mind-boggling amount on this contract. I will also say that it's an area that really needs addressing, and although I can't fathom the actual dollar amount that we're dealing here, it is a project that needs to move forward. And Mr. Maxwell, I believe this is your district.
Yes, sir, it is, Mr. Chair. Thank you. And I appreciate the thorough explanation for it. This is an area where I-10 coming west to east narrows to 2 lanes. And additionally, I believe it's a correct statement that there's only one major municipality along the I-10 route from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast where there is not an actual highway or freeway type bypass, and that is the city of Tucson. So that's an area we're working on down there to try to encourage some other option to get around the city should there be an accident or something occurring on I-10. The point you made about the design and the way they were going about doing this will keep this highway open is absolutely critical, because if it wasn't remaining open for traffic flow, you'd literally be putting all of the truck traffic, not to mention the rest of the vehicles, off of the highway onto the side streets and roads. And it's bad enough, as I think the chair and I understand driving on this area quite often. So the only question I'd ask for you, Greg, based on everything you said, if we were to reject this and you were to put it out for the bids, your estimate would be higher as well, and then the same exact bid may come in either higher or below your new estimate, in your opinion.
That is correct.
Okay, with that knowledge, Mr. Chair, I would like to approve or move for approval of item 10J, award to Sun Construction, Inc., as presented.
I'll second it.
All right, I thank you for the motion, and I have a second by Ms. Howard. And yes, thank you for the in-depth analysis on this item. It's very seldom that we see a contract this high. So, are there any other questions or comments on this particular item? Hearing none, is there any opposition to the motion in front of us? Hearing no opposition, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 And Chair amazingly says aye. So with that, item 10J passes unanimously. Now we go to number 10K.
So item 10K is a pedestrian improvement and traffic signal in Mojave County. Let's see here, we only had one bidder on this project. The low bid was $5,362,000. The state's estimate was $4,741,639, a difference of $620,361, or 13.1% over the engineer's estimate. When we went through the bid and spoke to the low bidder, the one and only low bidder, there was a discrepancy in that bid where it was supposed to be 39 cents. It was actually $39. So we are asking for a rejection of this bid, and we recommend rebidding as soon as possible.
Is the rejection based on the error of $39?
That's correct. It went way, obviously, if it was at the right 39 cents, it would have fallen right in line with our estimate.
Okay. Mr. Chair. So I understand it's obviously either per unit or per measurement. It's just not a difference of $39. It's $39 per
unit.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification on that. I was, all right.
Mr. Chair, I understand the last one was a really hard vote.
I know it was.
And now you're worried about
It still kind of got my brain puzzled here a little bit. But anyhow, Mr. Elders, I believe this is your district. Any questions or comments, or would you like to make a motion to reject this?
Mr. Chairman, I don't have any questions, but for the record, I also wish to recuse myself on this item. Our county has no objection to the department recommendation, but I am going to recuse myself.
All right, so you would like to recuse your item? Okay, so I'm not going to ask you to make a motion then.
Mr. Chair, I so move we approve item 10K and reject it as presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Mr. Maxwell to reject all bids on item 10K as presented, and I have a second by Ms. Howard. And please note that Mr. Elters is asked to be recused from this item. And with that, is there any opposition to the motion to reject all bids on this? Hearing no opposition, all those in favor say aye.
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 Chair votes aye.
Aye.
And please note that item K passes to reject all bids with a vote of, is that Mr. 6? Is that Mr.?
Mr. Chairman, that would be 6 ayes and 1 recusal.
All right, thank you. All right, now we finally get to item number 11, and I'm going to cut this short because it's been a long meeting. But anyhow, are there any suggestions? Item 11 is suggestions for items on future board meetings.
Mr. Chair, I just ask that we truly try to move forward with the briefing or what we need to be informed on with how we add and remove roadways from the state transportation system.
And you know, that might be very good for like a work session.
I agree.
All right. And if we could please note that, Mr. O'Rourke, is to try to schedule a work sessions.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right. And if there are no other suggestions, any other comments from our remote participants? Ms. Daniels?
No, sir, none from me.
All right. Mr. Elders?
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right.
Have a safe travel and a wonderful weekend.
Okay. Mr. Meck? Ms. Peshlokai? All right. Hearing none?
I missed that last question.
We're about to close, and I was looking for suggestions or any comments before we close the meeting.
No, I have no more. No.
All right. Hearing that, we are adjourned.